Because there's not a whole hell of a lot to do on an intercontinental flight, I watched movies I otherwise probably would have never watched. And I wanted to talk about the Nobody movie franchise and how it's a microcosm for modern man and the dynamics between men and women. Most people are watching the movies for the action, but there's an underlying theme in there that it somehow snuck in there about the truth of the reality and the interactions between men and women and why most men are deciding to take the red pill and go their own way. In the movie you meet, there's two movies as far as I know, and you meet the protagonist who is a family man who in the first movie is a man whose wife looks down on him and his children are embarrassed by him because he doesn't stand up when two people burgle their house in the middle of the night with an unloaded gun. Of course, he doesn't know he does know it's unloaded. He doesn't tell them. And then as the series progresses, you learn that, I think it's in the second movie, that she knew when she picked him that he was a hitman. Because she talks about how when she met him, he was covered with blood. So she knew what he was. And this is the first problem. Women look for men who are dangerous. A man that there's dangerous that they can calm. So she takes this man, this hitman, and he loves her for some reason. They never explain how that happened, but it's just assumed that he's fallen in love with her. And then she beats him down until he's a cowed, unlikable version of himself that she resents. So much so that she's got a pillow between them in the bed, and they don't talk, and they don't hang out, they don't touch, they don't do anything, and they're miserable. And that's the first problem, is that so many women go after bad boys. Second problem is they turn those bad boys into sheep, and then they resent them because they change them. The third problem is then he then asserts himself. And so she complains because it puts the family at risk. And then in the second movie, we're on vacation, don't do this. You knew what he was when you picked him up. And even in the second movie, in that same scene where she's talking about when I met you were covered in blood, she's like, I kind of miss this. But so you miss it, at the same time you resent it because it's interfering with your life as present. So the third problem is they hate the fact that they can't have the guy they want exactly the way they want when they want him that way. They want a guy who's exciting, but they want a guy who's only exciting when it doesn't inconvenience them. Well, I got news for you, woman. If you're going to have a family with a guy, he's going to have to, put some of that aside. And she never does thank him for anything. She never thanks him for buying the business out, for saving their family, for standing up. She gets turned on by it, but she never actually appreciates Huck, whatever, for the things that he does. So he's the perfect microcosm for why men are choosing to avoid dating and marriage, because in order to get a woman, you've got to be this terrible person. If you get a woman as a terrible person, there's a good chance that she's going to beat you down until you are no longer the person that you are. If you then resurface as that, she's going to blame you for resurfacing and being what she already knew you were when she picked you up, because it's inconvenient to the narrative that she wants. So in the first movie, she's upset because he's a wuss. In the second movie, she's upset because he's a hitman again. And it's inconvenient to going to the games and going on vacation and just having a good time. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't, if a guy is a certain way, you can't have him be one way when it's convenient and another way when you want him to be something else. Men are what they are, and they typically are one thing all the time. And men aren't interested in wasting the time and the energy and the effort in order to become what women want all the time and integrate themselves on a constant status to what she wants in order to make her happy. And she isn't ever happy. She's never happy. She knows what she picked. He's a bad guy that she turns into a sheep. And then he goes back to being a bad guy and she's upset because he's not a family man. If that's what you want, you need to pick a boring family man. But they don't like that because when he becomes the boring family man, he's boring and she resents it. This is why so many men have pulled themselves out of the dating market, is because they know that in the dating market, they are nobody. And they're never going to compete. They're not going to make it on the radar because we're not all bad guys. Because let's face it, most men are not growing up trying to become pirates and hitmen and drug dealers and all that other crap. Most men actually just want to grow up and have a family. Even Henry VIII didn't grow up intending to become this kind of salacious misogynist who only used women for his pleasure. He was trying to have a son. That's all he wanted, was to have a family. And don't know this for certain, but it's pretty likely that he took advantage of the position as much as he did because Catherine of Aragon, didn't give him a son that lived. Because he didn't step out on Jane Seymour, she gave him a son. That son barely survived him, but he loved her and wanted to be buried with her because she gave him what he wanted most. And he was faithful to her because she gave him what he wanted. Most men just want a family. Most women want excitement, but only a certain amount. Only when they want it to the degree that they want it, when it's convenient to them. Otherwise, when it puts the family at risk, what do you mean we have to go in the basement? Why can't we just have a vacation? Why do you have to start stuff? Because I'm a hitman. And you knew that when you met me, and that's why you fell in love with me. Otherwise, she never would have fallen in love with him. They would have never ended up together. So we have all these couples walking around out there that hate each other. Or more likely, the woman resents the fact that the man became what she wanted him to become or isn't what she wants when she wants it, the way she wants it. Because either women get a man that they like and then turn him into a sheep like she does in these movies, or they end up with a guy who is a sheep because the guys that are the exciting, dashing, devil-may-care Casanovas don't want them or don't want to keep them. And then they resent it because the guy they really love isn't the guy that they're with. Because that's what she's upset with her husband about is, you're not the guy I'm in love with. But when I'm the guy you're in love with, you're also not happy. And that's the biggest problem is women are never happy. When I was a small boy, under the age of 10, my parents got me this set of tapes that were Standing Tall value tapes. And in one of them, the one about happiness, I think, is about a spoiled princess whose father gives her a toy chest that gives her any toy that she wants. All she has to do is think about it and open it up, and she gets it. And she gets everything that she wants, and she's still not happy because she's a child. And most women, regardless of their age, are teenage girls trapped in adult bodies. And that's all it is. And teenage girls are never happy because they want what they want when they want it, how they want it, and they want it their way, right away, all the time anyway. And most guys don't know what that is, and most guys don't care. Because let's face it, if you pick a guy because you think he's worthy of you, that guy presumes that you want to get on his program. I've learned enough in science about astronomy to learn that it is the lesser object that orbits the greater one. But women want a guy who's superior to them, the greater object, to then orbit around them. Well, I'm sorry, the Earth does not orbit around the moon, and the sun does not orbit around the Earth. And we don't even orbit around, we're not even the center of our own galaxy. And who knows where the center of the universe is, or if there's more than one universe. I don't know, I don't care. All I know is that the lesser thing always orbits the bigger one. So if a woman picks a guy who is superior to her, she needs to get prepared to get on his program and follow his lead and get into his orbit and not demand that he follows hers. Because otherwise, chaos ensues. And that's what happens in the first issue of Nobody, is he has orbited around her and everyone is miserable. Everyone. Including the bad guys he beats up. There's no happy ending for anyone. It's just that the problem goes away. Everyone is unhappy because if you want somebody to orbit around you, you got to pick somebody who's beneath you. That's just how it works. So it's interesting to watch these movies and make that realization on the flight home from Europe this year and realize that it's a microcosm of the world that we live in and a wake-up call to men disguised as an action flick. So if you're a guy and you haven't watched them yet, go watch them with this in mind. If you're a woman and you're offended by this, sorry. I'm a dude who's been burnt badly in a divorce, and this is how I look at the world now. Because we are changed by the things that cause us pain. And in order to avoid that pain, we watch for the signs. And so I have turned opportunities down for romance and marriage because I looked at them and thought, I'm going to be miserable if I pick this woman. She's going to make me miserable, just like the one from whom I got divorced. And I'm not interested in being miserable. I would rather be lonely than in hell. Because in hell, everyone is absorbed with themselves. And I don't want to be there. Anyway, Happy New Year on that thought. Go see the movies. They are rated R, I think, so you may not want to watch them. They are kind of on the violent side, but it was interesting to watch them from this perspective and realize that he's exactly why I don't date. because I refuse to become that again. And hopefully he will too. I'm sure they'll make another one. Anyway, Godspeed. Happy New Year. Take care.